Donald Trump's campaign responding to the FBI disclosures today in a statement saying, quote, Hillary Clinton's answers to the FBI about her private email server defy belief. I was absolutely shocked to see that her answers to the FBI stood in direct contradiction to what she told the American people. After reading these documents, I really don't understand how she was able to get away from prosecution. Let's bring in our expert panel. We've got Steve Rogers. He's a former military intelligence officer and also Trump campaign advisor. We've got Kathy Taylor, former National Security Council Director of International Finance Policy, and Michael Taubman. He's a Democrat strategist. First to you, Steve. I need to tick-tock some more disclosures. These are somewhat of a bombshells coming out. In the FBI report, it also quotes Colin Powell, former Secretary of State under George W. Bush, advising Hillary Clinton that the way to get around a Freedom of Information Act request, quote, don't use systems that capture the data. Also, this is going to be lengthy. I need to walk the viewer through it so they get it. What happened was Clinton then went to use a private server. She used an outside company to help manage the private server. She said to the private server company, I only want a 60-day retention policy for the emails. He forgot to put that in. That was his blank moment. The New York Times does its story disclosing that she was using a private server. Then they used BleachBit to wipe out the email chain, which irrevocably it erases them. You don't even see what was on the email system. This came after the House Benghazi Oversight Committee in early March said, keep those records, wiped them out. What do you make of the disclosures?
Liz, a couple of things. First of all, she reminds me of the people I used to interview as criminal suspects, and they deny everything and they point fingers. Look, Colin Powell, I believe, has already stated that he has not guided her on how to capture data, not capture data, etc. So I think that's an allegation. So
she's quoting him, or an aide is quoting him in the FBI interviews, and he's denying it.
He's denying it. That's number one. Number two, look, I went through the vetting with classification processes. A high school student could clearly understand that you are not to at all do in any way, shape, or form even the appearance of compromising classified material. What she's doing is she compromised the security of this country. She got caught, and now the best thing to do is to blame somebody else. And look, she has said, well, I depended on aides. I depended on this person. My goodness, you are the top person in this country when it comes to the classifications of certain material, national security information, and you're blaming everyone else.
Michael, and the other thing is also the hack, the fears over being hacked. So if you're afraid of being hacked, why keep the private server in your basement? Why not come back into the government and have more layers of security on it?
What you're pointing out appropriately is that there were how many steps? 10 steps, 20 opportunities, 50 opportunities for her to say, maybe this isn't such a great idea. I just got an email from a known associate who I'm pretty sure wouldn't forward me a link to a pornography site, although who knows these days. Let me stop what I'm doing and bring this back in-house and bring this back to government. She has really not had a good week. And we were talking before in the green room, Michael, they asked me, what are you going to say about this? Hillary Clinton is your candidate. And I sort of threw my hands up and said, I actually have nothing right now.
You have no, okay. That's an honest opinion from a Democrat strategist. Really appreciate that. Kathy, also an aide, you and I were talking before the show. It looks like in the FBI report that an aide, a Clinton aide, also destroyed 2 of the 13 devices. Remember, she only said, I only have one device for ease of use. Maybe there are devices throughout this chronology of this, but we also have an aide destroying with a hammer 2 devices. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously not only not qualified to be Secretary of State or President, but her math is not very good either. I mean, this is a woman, if you don't know what classified means and you work in the U.S. government, particularly as the head of the Department of State, as Secretary of State, you're not even qualified to drive yourself to the supermarket. Let's be very clear about that. Not knowing what C meant is hands down inexcusable. But there's a couple of important facts that you allude to here, Liz. First of all, not only did she have multiple devices, but there's a laptop and a thumb drive missing. And what a lot of the reporting is failing to mention about that laptop and thumb drive is that they're not just any laptop and thumb drive. They were specifically used at her home to back up information. And the same aides that helped do that are the aides that helped smash the cell phones.
That's a good point. It's an important point because we need to make it clear to the viewer, Steve, what was going on with their fight against terrorism back in 2009 through 2014. Remember, this is before the rise of ISIS. This is 2009. You know, talks of drone strikes on terrorists in Pakistan. Al-Qaeda remnants were still a problem in Iraq, right?
Well, absolutely. And it seems to me, Liz, that there appears to be, and I'll always say it appears to be because you're not guilty until proven guilty, that she has made some very, very serious violations of law here. And the bleach and everything else that went on is covering it up. Look, when I worked at FBI headquarters and for the U.S. military intelligence, you couldn't bring your cell phones in. You couldn't bring floppy disks at the time in, flash drives. How on earth did she get away with setting up a separate computer service and using other devices? It's beyond my comprehension.
Michael, now we're going into the debates, right? And this is a crucial Labor Day weekend, which really, it's the beginning of the home stretch.
Sure.
Donald Trump could bring this up easily. This is proof of not proof, but evidence pointing toward a cover-up. How would she respond in a debate if he brings that up?
Well, not if. Of course it'll come up. Why wouldn't it come up? But I would say, slightly disagreeing with my colleague here to your point, all of this information was reviewed and was part of the deliberation and the record when they declined any sort of criminal prosecution. And so, again, not just a presumption of innocence, but an examination, including the material the public is
criminal
finding
prosecution,
now. Criminal prosecution. But, of course, it will come up in debate, and it does go to her quality.
The FBI exonerating her is not proof that she's innocent. Let's be clear about that. They have a process. They had political implications they were concerned about, for sure. They went through their process. So let's assume it was a good process. It still does not mean that she did not lie, which we really looks like she very well may have. It does not mean that she followed the rules and the procedures, that she took oath to uphold not only as secretary,
Michael,
but with her
security clearance. FBI Director James Comey, I'm going to give you the last word, Steve. James Comey said that if he was asked at the congressional hearing, if anybody did what Hillary Clinton did, that person would have met with sanctions. That means firing, right? That means you lose your security clearance and you're fired, right?
All of this does go
Wait, hang on, Steve.
All of this does go towards an appropriate line of attack by the Trump campaign, by surrogates in a debate, that there is a separate set of rules with the Clintons, and she'll have to respond to it.
Great talking points. Here's the fact, all right?
No, but it wasn't just a talking point.
Well, I'm going to qualify that. The fact of the matter is that I have always defended the FBI. In this case, I won't. The director of the FBI got his marching orders, in my view, and the view of many people from the Justice Department, got the Attorney General off the hook. It is not the job of the FBI to recommend or not recommend prosecution. It is the job to give the Justice Department the evidence, and then they make the call.
Right. Wow. This is a heck of it's a bombshell report with a lot of new, fresh information. Right. You guys were terrific. Thank you so much for your insights. I do think that was more than a talking point. I think it was honesty.
I appreciate the defense.